My dad used to always say to me, son, you want to know who your friends are? Wait till one day you're in a hospital, one day you're in prison, or one day you're rich and then all of a sudden you're poor. You'll know who your true friends are. I guess he really knew. I didn't understand that for a long time, but I guess he really knew because my dad went from being very wealthy to come to the United States to clean toilets. I ended up learning the lesson that he taught me when I was in prison. I never forget that first Christmas that I was in prison. I went to prison. I was young, I was 23 years old. I had a ton of money. My parents would lack for nothing. And I called home that day. And when I asked my brother, JC, my brother, you talk about an idol? Besides God, that is my brother to me. And you know why? Because my brother sacrificed 10 years of his life to make sure that my parents came to see me every visit that they could. So when I called him that day and I asked him, Christmas Day, I never forget, or New Year's Day, hey JC, how's everything going? How many people are there? I was expecting so many people to come by, as they did forever and ever, while I was outside and while I was doing so much for them. And he says to me, he said, George, just mom, dad, and me. I went back to my bunk and I cried. And I cried because I realized what my father had said. You want to know who your true friends are? Wait till you're in prison. Well, recently I went through a horrible experience. I had a friend that I really loved. We had spent a lot of time together. Went to Angola with me for a long time. But we have very different views about Trump. And at the end of the day, sometimes I kid about it. Because at the end of the day, Trump is not going to do nothing, was never going to do anything for me. And Biden is not going to do anything for me. So I really don't care or to defend or to spend my energy or to fight with a friend. My best friend Lyle, he and I have complete opposite views about the president or the ex-president and now President Biden. But we don't allow that ever to divide our friendship. But this friend called me up, sent me an email, and about these crazy conspiracy theories, but also about the fact that how do you feel about all this communist ideas and all the socialism? I answered back by saying, how do I feel? Because a man who works 40 hours should not live in poverty, should not only make $15, but $20 an hour. And I don't give a damn if we have to pay more for an apple, for a banana, for whatever. The truth of the matter is, if we pay more, he could also buy it. But unfortunately today, who can live on $7 an hour? Who can live on $15 an hour? So therefore, am I a communist or socialist because I want a human being that works 40 hours a day to support their family, has no education, but has worked all their lives to be able to bring home a dignified wage? Yeah, then damn it, I'm a socialist. Because I believe that people should not die as they are dying all over the United States rationing insulin because they cannot afford to buy insulin. In a country as rich as ours, people cannot afford to get sick. Do I believe that every human being in America should have health care as a right, not a privilege? Hell yeah, I do. And see, none of these things affect me because I make a lot more than $15 an hour. I did. And at the same time, I have health care. But it affects me when others less than me cannot afford that. So if that makes me a communist, yeah, so be it. But I never did any of my friends say, hey, how's it feel now that you got that big tax break that I benefited from? Because the stock market went up, stocks that I have, those companies bought the stock back, so my stocks went up. Yeah, I made a lot of money. But do you know what? It still didn't take away that pain and that hurt that I have over so many that have nothing, because I saw my father and mother have nothing. I saw them work for minimum wage. But a minimum wage in 1966 was much more than $7 an hour today. And they were able to save and buy a little house years after through their sacrifice. I saw them because they came to America and suddenly their education meant nothing here. So yeah, I know what it is. And I know what it is to see so many hurting, so many single moms, which to me are my heroes, knowing that, hey, how do I feed my child? How do I go on and educate and find a job while at the same time my child has to stay home and go to school? I heard from them. How about in a city where I live, that if you don't earn a minimum of over $10 an hour, you cannot rent a house. So therefore, there's these people working at McDonald's for $7 an hour, honest, working every day, 2 shifts. But you know what? That 2 shifts that equals $15, they don't count it as that because they only count 1 shift. And then you know what happens? They cannot rent a house. So you know where they're living? In this roach motels where in a regular 1-room motel, you have a whole family cooking, living, sleeping. Garbage in the dumpster sky high. Yeah, I heard about that. So you know why socialism would come to America? In reality, we don't have socialism. What people are trying to say, because we're living in a country that politicians are nothing but about scaring you. They want to scare you to death. They want you to be so fearful of the boogeyman. And there's your savior. But it's bullshit. None of them ever going to do nothing for you. Whatever you're going to do for yourself, you're going to do it for yourself through your hard work, sacrifice, and persistence. But they'll tell you, oh, all this stuff is going to happen. No, there's no communism. Socialism? Neither. Just people wanting to have a dignified life. In a country where the stock market goes through the roof and unemployment also through the roof, something disconnects. I used to tell my father, you know why communism came to Cuba? Very simple. When you have a country where 95% of the wealth is owned by 5% of the people, all you need is a charismatic person to come and say, hey, what have you got to lose? Isn't that how Trump convinced so many African Americans that voted for him the first time? Remember that? What have you got to lose? And he was right. Because they've been left behind. Except he didn't do shit for them either. You know how he convinced so many people out there in the mountains, out there in the countries of Virginia, Pennsylvania, that he was their savior. Honestly, did they believe that he was their savior? Probably not. But no one's done nothing for them. So you know what? Somebody new came along. Hey, we'll go with him. And that's how politicians are. And it's very, very sad because the American people, see, right now, they're fighting over this COVID relief, where people should get $1,400. They've been fighting for months whether an American should get $1,400. That might help them and their family to maybe pay rent, maybe buy a little bit of food, maybe have a little cushion. Yet, they didn't fight about the trillions of freaking dollars in the tax bill that benefited who? Me, the wealthy. Didn't benefit you. When people tell me, oh, the economy was so much better. Yeah, because the ex-president convinced you that it was. But ask yourself, how much more money did you bring home if you're just a regular laborer? How much better did your life become? Because I'll tell you, I talk to many, many people, and I'm open-minded. And every single one of them, not one of them tells me that their life was any better. It's not. They're in the same boat that they've always been. If they were struggling, they were struggling. If they were wealthy, they got wealthier. So we have a tremendous disparity. Our middle class has disappeared in America. And sure enough, get someone charismatic to come in there. You think people give a damn? You have someone come in there and says, I'm going to erase your student loans, which is a mafia, which is the most horrific crime the U.S. government does. You can buy a house at 2% mortgage, but yet your interest for student loans is 6-7%. And universities charge more and more and more tuition. Why? Because you can borrow it. They don't give a shit that one day you're not going to be able to buy a house, that you're going to be indebted for the rest of your life with a stupid mortgage without a home called a student loan. So when someone comes in there and says, I'm going to wipe out your student loan, then right, 90% of people that have student loan will vote for that person. See? And that's what's really, really critical. That's what's going on in America today. Call it communism, socialism, whatever you want to call it. No, it's not. It's disparity of classes, disparity of income. It is the disappearance of the middle class. It is the part that we are so self-consumed that we don't give a shit about so many people going hungry. I'm pro-life. I said that. I'm anti-abortion. But I'm also pro a woman and her husband and their God deciding what they're going to do. Not me and the government. But here's the thing. I see all these people fight to make abortion illegal. That's going to hurt who? The poor. Because the rich. You think they want an abortion because it's illegal, they're not going to get one? They'll fly somewhere where they can get one. But at the same time, I ask myself, so all those babies that have been aborted, God, I wish to God they were not. But instead of fighting to make abortion illegal, Why are you not doing something so that women feel when they get to the moment in their life that they can have support and be able to maintain that child? I don't believe there's a single woman out there that decides, I'm going to get pregnant so I can have an abortion. Because I've known 3 that had abortions, and all 3 were traumatized. So it's horrible. But I'm going to tell you something. You know why I believe that so many people, especially these Catholic leaders and evangelical leaders? Because it's a talking point. And at the same time, because an aborted child, they can fight for an aborted child because they don't have to educate them. They don't have to feed them. They don't have to house them. Why are they not feeding the 1 out of 5 children going hungry every day? Those are born. Why are they not fighting for those? Why are they not fighting for those people incarcerated through a very horrific judicial system and a sad and corrupt criminal reform that needs to come about, but a criminal penal system that is made to go after minorities? I know. I was there. I lived there for 10 years. So when you want to talk about socialism and when you want to attack President Biden, and I'm not a Democrat by no means, never have been, never voted in my life till now, ever for any Democrat. But here's the thing, when you want to talk about that, talk about what's the ailment of America. Talk about why we're not talking about mental health and all the people struggling with mental health. Why are we not? So, going back to the topic with my friend, all of a sudden he called me a horse's ass and insulted the hell out of me. And I love that man. But then I realized one thing. Think carefully about this. Friends never leave. They stay no matter what. Friend loves you for your faults, not your virtues. Because, like I tell people, Trump did not make divisions in family. Did not break family, did not break friendships. No, those were not real friendships. Because no one can break up a friendship. Even if you want to idolize somebody and your brother, there's nothing my brother can say or do that's going to make me not love him. He's my brother. And the same I feel about those that are my close friends. But as the older you get, the more you realize how little friends you really have. That's why, I hardly talk to anyone on the phone anymore. I don't watch social media. My wife monitors all my social media. And she does it just to get out our message, but don't go through Facebook or any of that. Why? Because I realized that I was falling into the same trap. I was beginning to feel hate and I was beginning to feel anger. Why? How can I give that much power to anybody? Because at the end of the day, no one has power over us that we don't give to them. So I realized at the end of the day that none of those people are going to do nothing for me. So why would I get mad at a friend of mine posting some stupid ass crap? Why don't I think about the good times that I've had with that friend? And why don't I think about the good in that person versus the stupidity that he or she might be posting? We really need to think about that. We need to think about what really is important in our lives. I say that social media brought faraway friends closer, but it has taken those close friends of ours far away from us. It has destroyed society. And it will. A tool that was meant for good has really become something very, very evil. So therefore today I only participate in Clubhouse. Why? Because I have a room with 2 great brothers and we talk about inspiring stories. We tell stories of people that have overcome odds. And it's audio, it's not political. So you just can't separate politics today from social media. You can't watch TV. I mean, you turn on CNN, it will say one thing, Fox, the total opposite. I just recently saw the CEO of Fox say, we will be the opposition to this administration. Ain't that something? I thought, what happened to fair and balance? It's not fair and balance anymore. It's not news. Those that were news people like Shep Smith, they were kicked out. It's not news. It's about controlling people's mind. And it's about making people believe a false narrative on both sides. And it's very, very sad because you only believe what you want to believe. And you only believe what you allowed others to tell you to believe. Well, I choose not to believe any of that shit. Because I am convinced that neither Biden, that neither Trump, Nixon, or any of them done shit for Jorge Valdes. What I got, I busted my ass getting. busting my ass working hard, going away from my family for years at a time. At the beginning of our company, I'd go to a hurricane and sleep on the grass with rain all over me. Because I wanted to create a better future for my children. But I thank God that every day I ask God, I ask Him every day, please give me a heart for those that are hurting. Let tears come out of my eyes, because if you hear some of those stories, like I saw in American Idol, of a young man, 13 of them, living in a 2-bedroom, broken down trailer. Thank God that a fireman told him he could be a fireman too. And that department has embraced this African American. He's the only African American in an all-white fire department. But you see the joy in that young man, because he knew he could be better, and he is better. But if you see those stories and you don't have tears come out of your heart, you know why? Because your heart is very hard. You know why I know that? Because there was a time in my life that I could see someone die and say, I don't give a shit. If you're dead, it's because you should not be breathing our good air. But today, when I think about those immigrants crossing those borders, trying to feed their family, I think about my mom and dad leaving everything behind so they could feed our family. When I see those single moms struggling to try to raise their child in a society that over 55% of all children are raised by a single mom, my heart weeps. When I see those people that have no education, because sometimes many of them had to work since an early age, could not afford to go to school, and at the same time help feed their family, my heart weeps. When I see all those good people addicted to drugs, my heart weeps. Mental illness. A mom needing an abortion because she just doesn't know how to make it anymore. My heart weeps. We were all created perfect in the image of God. We've allowed sin to make us ugly. But we can stop. And somehow, it is my prayer that God does something so unbelievable to change our society that has become so freaking ugly. I don't give a shit. You know why? 65. I got less summers than I've had before. But I care about my grandchildren that I adore and my children that I adore. I care about the world that they're going to grow up in. Very different than my world. I grew up in the world surrounded by the greatest generation. Men and women who felt that they had problems in their marriage, but divorce was not an option. Men and women who'd rather be an hour early than a minute late. Men who went to serve a war that they didn't agree with, but to serve was an honor and a duty. Men who created the greatest country on earth. That's all disappear. Think about it. That was the true American dream. They work hard, they sacrifice. They save money, put their kids through school, eventually retire. And with the sale of their home or their retirement and their Social Security, they lived a decent life. But today, because we're so consumed with buying, consumerism, and having things, all the things that we think are going to make us happy that will never make you happy, then therefore we've abandoned everything that's important to us. And years come and years go. And then we get to a point where we're old. Our children don't care about us. You know why? Because we didn't care about them. Very, very sad. And we find ourselves lonely and alone. Because we're reaping what we sowed. And when that happens, neither Biden or Trump is going to be there. Neither Republican or Democrat is going to be there. You know, listen, there's great honest. I think Mitt Romney is a great politician, a great man of God. But when you look at some of these people, when I look at Ted Cruz, I'm ashamed to be a Cuban. Because if a man told my wife that she was ugly and accused my father of killing JF Kennedy, I would never lick his ass. I'd be hating, I would be just thinking about everything I could do to destroy that man. But it's all about power. And you know what the thing about power? It flees. I know it. I had enormous power. I have more power than those cheap-ass politicians have. It's gone. Didn't last. But you know what's not gone? The work that God's done in my life and what I feel for others. When I get letters from people whose life have been changed because they read my book, then I think about the man and one man and myself sent almost 40,000 books to prison last year. How many men, women, and children? They said 10 inmates read one book. So did 400,000 read the books? 200,000? 250? Did they hear about a message of hope, redemption, salvation? I pray they did. And now we're making movies to send to them because 55% of all inmates cannot read or write. Very, very sad. But God will intervene and something will happen. And like every empire, this one too shall fall. So think about where you're putting your faith and your hope on. Are you putting it on a billionaire that plays golf and tells you that he's your savior but ain't shit? Are you putting on someone that tells you that he's going to save the world? Or are you putting it on the one that never changes, the one that's never lied to you, the one that created you, and the one that did the ultimate sacrifice one day and died for you? Think about that. If you do, I promise you, you'll be a lot more more happy. And at the same time, as you look at so many of those you call your friends, trust me, if you have 3 friends, you got too many. But the greatest friends you always have is your mom, your dad, and some of your siblings. Think about it. Relatives, some, allow them not. Look what happened with that Republican congressman from Chicago and the letter he got from so-called family. You have disappointed us and you have disappointed God. What the hell does those people know about God? You think that you disappoint God because you vote to impeach Trump? If you do that, you're so freaking full of shit, you don't know God. And it's a shame because talking like that, what happens is so many that need God will look at you like I did when I was an atheist and say, what the fuck would I want to be like them? They're hateful. They're ugly. There's nothing attractive about them. That's why today I don't even call myself a Christian anymore. You know what I call myself? A follower of Jesus. That's who I follow. Because the so-called Christian leaders, look at them. They're all falling left and right. They're all getting ugly. Many of them are just for the power, the money they can get from you. The lies they tell you. How they talk to God about Trump, how was he elected president. But when he didn't, they don't apologize. You know, it's so easy for me to tell, God said this to me. I hated that. I've never said that to anybody. You know why? Because first of all, how can I prove that God did not say that to you or me? But when things that we said that God said and those things don't come true, we heard so many. And we heard the word of God and we heard Christ. So today, appreciate your friends, appreciate your children, your family, your mom, your dad. Don't let any political figure separate you from the love you've had for so many. You know, build, find to love, and find to like a certain political candidate. It's okay to like Trump. It's okay to be a follower of Trump. But Trump is not your savior, neither is Biden. Your savior, for me, as a lover of Jesus, is Jesus. Not any political figure. So align your priorities. And remember, your walk may make the difference between someone spending eternity in heaven or hell. I think so. If I'm wrong, I didn't lose a damn thing. But if I'm right, there's just a lot to be lost.